Hello and welcome to another Smaulgld live stream. Tonight is Wednesday, October 24th, 2018. We're back for the second time. Apologize for the live streaming issues. Not on my end, someone else's. Must be YouTube. Okay, well tonight, episode title is Stocks Melt Down, Gold Crawls Higher, Silver Falls, and the Dollar Soars. Let's take a look at what we got. I think you should be seeing on your screen the gold price. The gold price opened at 12.30, went all the way up to 12.34, dropped down to 12.25. Now, during this time, what was happening was the stocks were melting down. This is reminiscent of last Wednesday, the first day that the stocks fell. The gold did not really go with it, did not really move up as stocks fell. Pretty much was independent of what was going on in the stock market. Now, during the day, the NASDAQ had the worst day. The NASDAQ fell 4.43%, and it was falling all day. The Dow didn't really fall till towards the end of the day, and the NASDAQ ended up down 4.43%. You had big 4.5% drops in Google, Facebook, and Twitter. Twitter's not a NASDAQ stock, it's a New York Stock Exchange stock. S&P down 3%, and the Dow was down 2.41. But the Dow point number was down 608. NASDAQ down 329. That was a big drop for NASDAQ. And the S&P down 84.59. Now, as you see in your chart, if you move over to the gold price, did not really start moving up until at the end of the day when it became apparent that it was going to be a bad day on Wall Street. So you can see it closed at 12.34, but actually, if you look at it on a full day's basis, it was basically unchanged, up about $3, up 0.26%. So gold held its own today, similar to last Wednesday, when gold didn't really do much in the first decline. It was only until the next day on Thursday that when the prices of the equity markets fell again, that gold then took off and went over 1200, went up about 25 points that day. So if tomorrow we have a bad day on Wall Street in the equities markets, maybe we'll see another big move up in gold. However, I did see Tesla reported after hours earnings, and they actually had earnings, which was a surprise. They weren't supposed to, and the stock is up 10%. Now, I don't know if that'll translate into the overall market as we go forward. I just see Roaring Fork notice 12:30 as we speak. Yes, this chart was prepared about an hour ago. I'm looking at 12:36 right now, so gold's actually just gone up in the last few minutes up to about up 28% since the close. Now, silver, let's take a look at silver. Silver did not manage to get a rise out of the day today. Silver closed lower. And again, not surprising. Remember, gold has to, in my mind, has to establish itself as firmly moving higher before silver really starts its ascent. And silver opened up at 1474. Now, remember, silver rose more than gold yesterday. But today did not manage to get a gain. Didn't really gain much off to the 1474, and didn't really do any turnaround later in the day as equities fell. That somewhat makes sense because one of the reasons stock markets may fall, and we're not sure what's behind this. Maybe they're just overvalued. It's been too high too long. It's a correction. They're worried about the Democrats winning, whatever it is. Well, one reason or another reason could be that people are concerned that the economy may slow because of higher interest rates. Now, if that's the case, then there's less of an industrial need for that 65-70% that silver, the profile of silver is industrial. So if there's a concern about a slowdown, you're less likely to see silver rise. But if there's a concern about the economy, gold is going to go first. If there's some type of collapse situation or financial crisis or political turmoil, gold gets the first bid. So pretty much I would say that this is price action that is consistent with that, even on a daily basis, with that thesis. Now let's take a look at the gold-silver ratio. Gold-silver ratio, you're not going to be happy with this one if you are one of these believers in gold-silver ratio is unsustainable, going to return to 16 to 1, 8 to 1, only because you've heard all the pumper channels tell you that. If you thought about it, you did the research, you just parrot back what they say, and then you insist it's true. Well, look at it now. As Tony Montana would say, look at you now. 84 to 1, okay? You're the bad guy. 84 to 1 on the gold-silver ratio. And that's a result not so much of gold soaring, but silver falling down a bit and gold rising a bit. All right, now let's get a little more going here, more in our analysis. Gold versus the Dow. This is something we've been looking at, and we're going to continue probably look at it on a daily basis, because you can see that in the last, since the summer, we've seen that fall off in the gold and the silver prices consistent, and then we saw the stock prices rebound. And you see those lines towards the far right where we've had the big divergence to the downside. First time we've had that big divergence to the downside in a few years, where gold is significantly underperforming stocks. Now, if you look at the yellow line when the divergence was the highest in mid-2016, that was in the summer of 2016, during the Brexit issues. And this is pre-Trump. This is the last end of the term for Obama. People are expecting Hillary Clinton to win, and you just had Brexit, and gold is up. And the Dow hasn't made that big post-election of Donald Trump's surge. So what you're seeing now is, I would imagine, if you look at the black line, the most recent high we had a couple of weeks ago really just took us back to where we were at the beginning of the year. And now we are, I believe, at a loss and for the year. And it looks like gold is probably going to close that gap. The ratio is now 20.582 to 1. Too early to tell. Tomorrow we'll get some indication as to what's going on. But we'll continue to look at the gold-silver ratio and the Dow-gold ratio. I think two very important ratios. Now, another thing to take a look at is, remember the gold-backed yuan game changer, China to crush the dollar? They're going to introduce a gold-backed yuan. Oh, no, it's not going to be a gold-backed yuan, but it's going to create a gold demand because they're going to be offering a yuan-denominated oil futures contract. We'll call it the Petro Yuan, and it's going to create demand for gold because countries are going to sell oil to China, and they're not going to want to take the yuan, but they're going to then take those yuan and they're going to go out and buy gold with it and create massive gold demand. And then because of that, China is going to crush the dollar. Well, here's a chart that's showing you that China is being crushed by the dollar. That is the Chinese RMB over the last 6 or 7 or 8 months. But let's, you got to see it. There it is. There's the Chinese RMB over the last 6, 7, 8 months. Renminbi, there you go. Renminbi, yuan, I call it the yuan. And you can see it is not crushing the dollar at all. The Chinese economy right now is being propped up by massive credit. They're on the verge of collapse probably, but you'll never hear that other than maybe from Kyle Bass will tell you that. But the gold pumpers will tell you China's going to crush the dollar. They've had it with the BRICS, and they're doing the Belt and Road, and they're de-dollarizing, and they're going to crush the dollar, and the dollar's going to collapse, and China's going to take over the world. That's what people like to hear. It's not true. But let me show you another chart on China and the yuan. The other story that was going around was China had control over the gold price, and they had control over it, and it was in their interest to do so, and they were going to drain the West's gold. So here is the RMB. I just had a nice little arrow for you to see. You can see the RMB has been cratering the entire time. So what a lot of gold pumpers decided to do was they took the gold slide for that period of time, that long period of time since July, and they just inferred that it must be China. They've pegged gold, the yuan to gold, or gold to yuan, whatever the pumper story was. And then people would believe it, because there was a correlation, not a causation, but a correlation between the two lines. Well, you don't hear that story anymore. Well, here's why. I'll show you why, and you know why. The yuan is still falling, but gold has turned around and gone higher. Does that mean that China lost control of the gold price? That's similar to elites are losing control. Well, here you go. Here's your spot gold price. Yes, the gold price was going down as the yuan was going down versus the dollar, but how do you explain this now? Gold going up. Did China lose control of the gold price? Again, if you were with me last night, you heard about do you have gold or silver derangement syndrome? And that's generally a willingness to believe anything you hear on these channels, especially if you hear it on 8 or 9 of them and they all repeat it and they all insist on it. And then the people that listen to it, they repeat it and they insist on it. And that echo chamber gets louder and louder. And everyone not only starts to believe it, they really believe it. And then they get mad if you show them it's not true. And when they finally understand that it's not true, they'll have another pumper story rolled out, and you'll start believing that one and repeating that one, and the derangement continues. So in order for gold and silver derangement syndrome to continue to exist, they have to refresh the stories. So you have, if gold-backed yuan doesn't work, or China controlling the gold price, or gold oil triangle, or COMEX default, or silver shortage, they'll recycle them if they can't come up with a new one. So COMEX default is the best one. JP Morgan's buying silver, that's another good one. But they will recycle these stories if they can, and they'll think you never didn't remember it, or if you did remember it, this time is different. It is going to collapse this time. Someone's standing for delivery. Okay. Let's see if we got any other charts for you tonight. If not, we'll open it up to questions. Tonight was important to really notice what happened in the markets, because you had that, this is like an aftershock. We had the correction a couple of weeks ago in the equities markets. Now we've had another jolt again, and let's see if there's any follow through. Let me see if there is, let's see what the futures are for tomorrow. So the futures, yeah, the futures are up a bit. The implied opens are up, not much, but they're not, there's no follow through yet on the stock market. However, we haven't opened yet in just opening in Asia, and we won't open for a few hours now in Europe. So they'll probably get some direction from those markets. And as I say, if we see some follow through on the equities going down, you may see gold try to regain even more ground, and then maybe silver will chase that for a little bit. All right. Okay, let's see. Let's go to the comments section and see who we got in the audience tonight. We got De La Ville. I just left another live stream and he was having a ton of issues. Yeah, well, it seems to be fine here, and maybe it was at that precise moment, around 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. A lot of people signing up. Who knows? Didn't work. Roaring Fork, I'm hitting the like button anyway. Well, thank you very much. Tom Manley says part 2. That's a reference that we tried this live stream for about 5 minutes. When we started, didn't work. We signed off, signed back on. Joe Lazaro is here. Music is on. So far, so good, says Tom. Echo happening again. Think it's good now, says Pablo Pina. It's good to see a lot of people tuning in every night. We do this every night. I try to not, like it's like a show where you don't necessarily have to have been on last night, or you can miss a week and still come back and pick up the thread. So it's good to be here every night, but I try to keep each show as its own discrete topic, and also, obviously, I do repeat some of the same game-changing themes. Roaring Fork says 1238 as we habla. Yep, and 1239. Are we moving up here? Oh, I didn't give you the crypto. I always forget the cryptos. If I'm going to pump cryptos, right? Someone said, I got to give you the numbers. Okay, so Bitcoin, there's not much happening with the cryptos. They've been flat. Bitcoin in the last 24 hours, 64.21, up 0.31%. Bitcoin Cash down 0.32% to 438. Ethereum down 0.34% at 200.72. Litecoin down 0.38% to 51.91, and Ethereum Classic with the biggest move, but only down 1.03%, 9.65. Now, the other thing I forgot to mention, last time when the stock fell that Wednesday, nothing happened to the cryptos, nothing at all. And I was saying, well, that's that shows that they're not correlated. As we were speaking on that live stream, as soon as while we were speaking, when I got off, then the cryptos collapsed commensurate with the collapse on the equity markets. That hasn't happened yet. And then the next day they fell further along with the stock market, but later in the day after the market closed. And then the cryptos rebounded when the stock market rebounded. So there was somewhat of a delayed correlation. So what we're looking for tomorrow is if we have another down day in equities, whether gold will finally kick into gear and go higher, and then along with silver, and then whether the cryptos will fall in conjunction with it. Not sure, but we'll have to see tomorrow. All right. Roaring Fork, the gold-silver ratio has been about 83.5 for the last 4 weeks, basically unchanged. Yes, but if you look at, and I'm going to show you, the gold-silver ratio, however, I mean, I've been following this for 5 years. They've been saying for 5 years, unsustainable. And I saw videos, buy silver now because the gold-silver ratio is now at 60 to 1. It's 65 to 1. It's unsustainable. No, it's 70 to 1. It's never been. It's 80 to 1. You have to buy silver. I would swap my gold. And all those types of stories, people showing you charts and hours and insisting that the gold-silver ratio is unsustainable and that silver is rarer than gold. And we cannot live our lives without silver. All those stories. Really, you know, I'm going to show you a nice looking picture. You might not have seen this one. This one's a very nice looking picture. This is a picture that illustrates what the gold silver ratio looks like. It's 72 to 1, and that's a I'm going to get this one up on the screen for you because the other day we were talking about why rich people don't buy silver and central banks don't buy a lot of silver because it takes up so much space. Here's a picture someone has with this is the gold silver ratio, or the silver to gold ratio. It's 72 to 1. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 American silver eagles, and then 2 1/10 ounce silver eagles, and then 1/10 ounce of gold. There's a big difference there in your ratio, and that's even higher now. It'd have to be like, you'd have to add another small 1/10 ounce, and you'd have to add another 1 ounce American silver eagle to make it like 83 to 1. But now I'm going to show you the 5-year chart, and again, the pumpers were out there telling us for 5 years it was unsustainable gold silver ratio. They had the charts and arrows, and they had all the data, and they were telling you that its historic ratio is 16 to 1, 9 to 1, comes out of the ground at this. It has to go down, mathematical certainty, whatever they were saying. But if you look at your chart the last 5 years, you're going to see that nothing of the sort has happened. And basically, they've been telling you that you must swap your silver out, your gold out, and get silver, and there you go. It's basically since 2014, it's gone from 60 all the way up to 84, and that's basically a 41% gain in gold versus silver. That's not good. 41%. It's gone up 24 points. It's opened 5 years ago at 59, and it's all the way up to 84. Now, it did get to 66, but still, the idea that it's going to 16 to 1, 9 to 1, that's just cherry-picked data. I've gone through this before the last 115 years. It's not going to be anywhere near that. And again, this isn't investment advice. This is just looking at history. Oh, no, but this, and there's always something. Silver's so necessary for yoga pants. They're finding new uses for it all the time, and, you know, destined to skyrocket. And remember, all that talk, the chart you're looking at, they were saying this entire time, well, then it's just a buying opportunity. It's always a buying opportunity when your favorite asset doesn't perform. It just gives you time to stack more, is what they like to say. All right. I like saying renminbi, says Roaring Fork. Contagion alert. Hodling my gold, says Tom Manley. Roaring Fork says, come on. Growth think he's awesome. Who's with me? All right. Bogus Fiat. King World News. Okay. I'm a King World. Well, King World News likes to say alert, alert, alert. And then there's double, triple alert. There's always an alert. And then something's going to shock the world. China's going to do this and it's going to shock the world. Who do you think? Oh, we didn't cover this. Roaring Fork asks, who do you think the mysterious bomber is? And what's the over-under on the number of days it'll take to arrest somebody? All right. So what happened today, for those of you who don't know, there were a series of devices that were sent out to, I think, yesterday was George Soros. Today it was Hillary Clinton's house in Chappaqua, New York. Obama's house, I think it was. And CNN and Eric Holder's house. Now, there's been pictures circulating online what was sent to CNN. And it's a package and it has stamps on it. But they're not postmarked. You know, they don't have the thing over them. And then it says to and from. And from is Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And to is Brennan at CNN. He doesn't work at CNN. He works at MSNBC. And then along the side, there's a little picture that shows like there's some ISIS. So who knows what that's all about? Well, it was obvious what happened. Well, not obvious. It was interesting to see the immediate reactions of people. The Republicans and the Trump people, the first thing that came into their mind was they sent this stuff to themselves to distract from the caravan, the idea of false flag. That's like a preconditioned response. People are no longer surprised with these things. They start to immediately think that, well, wait a minute, this would make sense for them. They would send this stuff to themselves. No one was hurt, and now they can portray the Republicans as a mob because the Republicans have been calling the Democrats a mob. And then, almost on cue, the other side, the Democrats, immediately came up with, and Twitter was more than happy to allow to trend, MAGA bomber. Now, again, there's no evidence that there's any, they don't know who did it, but the Republicans decided that the Democrats did it to themselves, and the Democrats decided that it was the Republicans or the MAGA crowd, you know, the extreme far-right element of the Donald Trump crew that did it as well. So, as to the question, what do you think? When do you think they'll find it? Well, I don't think it should take long to find who did it, because if you actually mail a package, you would be at the postal counter. They'd see who it is. Eventually, they could figure it out. But apparently, it wasn't mailed, so it looks like somebody must have delivered, or a group of people delivered these packages. And the other thing is they were intercepted before they reached their destination. So it's a little unclear, but it would seem to me that in today's world, it's pretty hard to get away with getting packages physically delivered somewhere without them being able to figure out not just the forensics of what they open up because nothing exploded, but just there's video. I mean, it's not like they sent it to some obscure person. The people, I mean, Soros must have all types of security in his Bedford Hills, New York compound, and same with the Clintons in Chappaqua, New York. They must have all types of security, including Secret Service. CNN, I mean, I'm sure they have security, but they must also have, because I think it's in New York, New York City, they would have all types of surveillance, just because I think any Manhattan office building would have that. So all this happened in the New York area. And well, I think Holder and Obama was in Washington, D.C. So I would suspect they're going to catch somebody soon. And someone's going to have egg on their face. Because if it turns out to be a right-wing guy, then they're going to call him the MAGA bomber. If it turns out to be that the guy's got some connection or woman or connection to some left-wing or Antifa group, then it's going to be that this was a false flag. And actually, if it turns out to be that, I think that's very, very much more devastating than if it turns out to be a right-wing person, because when these types of things happen, you can always, what's the word? You can explain away that somebody is a lone nut. So, for example, the guy who shot Steve Scalise and the Republicans, apparently he was a Bernie Sanders supporter, but that didn't really impact. People don't think that Bernie Sanders was responsible for it. But if it turns out that someone who is on the left did this to their own people, they can try to explain it away and say, well, we had nothing to do with it. But it's like, well, why would someone on your side do that? So I think they'll find somebody. It'd just be interesting to see who it is if they do find him. But I think they will find them, because Trump gave a press conference today, said he is bringing out the Department of Justice, the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, Secret Services, and they're not going to spare any expense to figure out who this is. So I think a manhunt of this nature probably, this isn't like the crime of the century. This looked like rudimentary type of bombing. Physical delivery, it's hard to get to 6 or 7 places and be undetected and not be able to figure out, trail people back to where that happened. And one of the things about the fact that none of them went off gives more credibility to the, quote, false flag argument, because if you're going to pull off a false flag and you are going to do it against your own people, I don't think you want to harm them. So I think you want to get the what's the word? The pop for saying that, look at these dangerous people did to our side. Or the other side, I mean, you could say the MAGA bomber, if it is a right-wing guy, is incompetent, and that's why nothing happened. But we'll have to see how that comes out. DeLaville gave your channel a mention in the comments section on Bix Weird's videos. He takes comments now? I know for a while he had taken the comments down. He has been wrong about some. Well, that's the problem when you make predictions. Predictions are tough, especially, I think, when you have a vested interest and and your audience is dependent upon if you depend on your audience tuning in every night because you're going to cheerlead gold, silver, whatever it is, cryptocurrencies, you can't say, well, I don't think silver's going to go much higher this year. I think it's going to go down. You're going to lose all your viewers, because once you are a promoter of an asset, that's your job. You have to be a permabull. And that's the difference between my channel and all the other channels. I'm trying to give you objective advice. And people, if they find it difficult to, Peter Larkin right here. So you're saying don't buy gold and silver. Has anyone ever, raise your hand in the comments section, ever heard me say, don't buy gold and silver? In fact, has anyone ever heard me say, go out and buy gold and silver today? People are, they miss the point of the channel. And also, I think it's a mistake. If you want to get investment advice, which I don't give, or you want to find ideas, and you want somebody to tell you, someone you don't know, someone with a YouTube channel, you have no idea really what their background is, whether they know what they're talking about, but they sound confident and they're telling you to buy Ethereum or some cryptocurrency or gold or silver. And then because you hear the same nonsense on another channel and you do it, well, you get what you deserve, I suppose. Okay. But I have never, ever said go out and buy anything. What I have told you to buy are mugs. That's for sure. I'll tell you right now. Go and get your Smaulgld mug. Why? I feel confident that mugs are useful. Mugs have been drinking vessels for 5,000 years. You can't live your life without mugs. Therefore, mugs are invaluable. How's that sound? And mugs make good defensive weapons. You can open carry mugs. There's plenty of reasons to like mugs. They have mugs at the offices of JP Morgan. Central banks, I'm sure, in their offices have mugs. So buy a Smaulgld mug today. Okay, so I don't tell you what to do. I tell you what's going on the way I see it. I could be wrong, but mostly what I see is what's there. So it's not like I'm making up what I see. That's why I show you charts. And maybe the charts are the wrong data, but that's the data that I have. And I can't represent that whatever I show you on the Russian gold numbers are correct. That's what the Central Bank of the Federation of Russia reports. If China reports a certain number, that's the only thing I can do with the number, put it in a chart. Same with the American numbers. I don't get into, well, you can't prove the United States has its gold. Yeah, and you can't prove Russia has it. You can't, none of this stuff. You can only show what they have. Okay. So you're saying don't buy gold and silver. No, I'm not. I'm saying don't buy gold and silver pumper stories. Research them. Don't just listen to me. Figure out, how do they know this? When JP Morgan's buying silver, how do you know that? Where's the evidence? COMEX is going to default. How many times have they said that? Where's the evidence that it will default? Where are they getting those numbers? What else would stop it from defaulting? Silver shortage, same thing. Where's the evidence that there's no silver left or there's not going to be any silver left? Gold back yuan. Mike Maloney called me out actually in one of his videos. I wrote that there was nothing backing this story, and he said, oh, and then there's somebody in the comment section that's saying this isn't sourced, and then he goes and reads from an article that has no source, and there has been no gold back yuan. And actually, the thing is, no one goes back and calls people on when they give you these stories. They tell you that it was gold's game changer, as he said. Nothing changed. The price of gold went down and the yuan went down. I don't know what changed, but for a year, that was the big story. That was going to be gold's game changer. All right. God bless yoga pants. Yes. Anything that has silver in it is a gift. All right. Roaring Fork. Are the pumpers correct if we live in a world without ETFs like silver, SLV, and gold? First of all, we live in a world, you could say, would they be correct if we didn't have COMEX? Would they be correct if we don't have ETFs? Would be correct if we didn't have stock markets? No, they wouldn't be correct. That's like saying would we all be here if oxygen went away? That isn't the way the world is. The world has ETFs. The world has gone into a massive financialization, digitization process that started long before Bitcoin came along. The world has moved away from and towards digital assets. That's a fact. It's not whether I like that. But when people say that it's unsustainable, they don't know that. It's never been like this. Oh, but it's never different. That's another cliche. It's different this time. Yes, it is. Everything is different. There's just because gold has been money for 5,000 years, period. It always does an accounting. All this stuff. No, that's only when gold was considered the financial asset, the go-to asset by central banks. They don't view it that way anymore. Well, they should, and they don't understand, and they will. No, they don't think that way anymore. No one, actually, the only people who actually believe in hard assets, they're of a certain age, like myself. Most younger people, they have no idea the monetary history of gold or silver. They're not interested in it. They don't know what it means, and they're not going to find out in a financial crisis. It's not going to mean anything to them. That's not. If you look what happened in the last financial crisis, people didn't clamor for gold. They clamored for a bailout. They didn't get it. The banks got it. But the average person, all they wanted was their mortgage paid. They wanted when Bush handed out a few $100s. They wanted that. They didn't want the world to go on a gold standard. In fact, Mises says if what the public wants is easy money, and central banks are more than happy to oblige. The public doesn't clamor for Peter Schiff's style prudence and backing. They don't want to take the pain. His point is that if you had an economy that was restrained the way we had during the classical gold standard, you'd have lower prices and higher productivity. Well, okay. But in order to get there today, no politician, and he's admitted this, no politician, no central banker is going to take the pain in order to produce a new type of economy that isn't debt-based. I mean, China could never do it. China, well, they could, but their government would be gone. They would have riots. And so that's why what they did during the financial crisis was QE. And that's why all the banks did it. Yeah, it's unsustainable, but no one's going to voluntarily put themselves in a straitjacket. That's not how you get votes. You get votes by promising stuff. It's the same reason why your gold and silver pumpers aren't going to stop pumping gold and silver. They'd put their channels out of business. So it's the same thing with central banks. They're not going, in governments, they're not going to turn off the credit spigot and say, well, we'll be fine in a couple of years. No. They were worried that there was going to be, what they say, martial law in the United States if they didn't get their bailout. There may have been. People don't have any money. What they did was what they thought was necessary, at least to stay in power. They don't think about long terms. People are saying this isn't sustainable. Nothing's sustainable. To a certain extent, that guy Keynes is right. He says in the long run, we're all dead. Well, that's in some respects no excuse for flagrant profligacy, but there is a point in it that, and we're seeing it. They've managed to stitch this together for a dozen years or so now. All right. American Supertramp says fake false flag event. Yes, as I said, that was what a lot of people thought on one side. And the other side thought immediately that it was the MAGA people. And then, of course, the MAGA people thought that, well, of course they think that. They set it up to be like that so they could blame us. How many miniature ISIS flags could have been sold on eBay the last month? It shouldn't take long. Yeah, well, that's true. I wonder where you get those. I don't know where you get those to tie them on there, unless they made them. So Tom Manley says, LOL. I don't know what that was about. I'm sure something was funny. It was Debbie Wasserman Schultz had mailed the bomb. Woohoo. That's what it says from her name on there. Actually, there was one sent to her office too, but it was addressed to, I don't know. The whole thing doesn't make any sense. Tom Manley, whoever did it, they're not too bright. Either they're not too bright if they thought that it would be politically advantageous. I don't think either side would have gained from, if you're trying to do a false flag like that, I don't think they gained anything from that. And it's pretty stupid then to go around with MAGA bomber and thinking that's going to change people's minds. If you are a MAGA bomber, I don't think it's too bright to go and try to set off bombs. That doesn't, I don't think it gains anyone at any points. And the way they did it, they weren't even successful. So yeah, I would say the whole thing was at a minimum not too bright and at a maximum very dangerous. Dr. Benesco Esquire says, I don't know about the moron argument. Look at MBS killing. I don't know what that means. MBS killing and dismembering the guy at the Saudi consulate. Can't make heads or tails of that comment. All right. Lockwash, how long did it take to crack 9/11? Well, 9/11 is a much more involved, I mean, the scale of what was done on 9/11 is much different than putting together a few packages and putting stamps on them and send them out. And also, we don't even know whether those are, like, what type of bombs they were, whether they were bombs at all, whether there was substance in them. It doesn't seem to be, it seems more like a prank than it does. 9/11 wasn't a prank. It was a much bigger operation. Okay, so the no, I think is referring to that you have not heard me say buy gold or silver or don't buy gold or silver. Well, I have said if you're going to buy gold or silver, I have said this. I said if you're going to buy gold or silver and you've made up your mind that you can do so, I do say this, through the Smaulgld links, the affiliate links, because you pay no more, no less than if you visited, for example, SD Bullion yourself. There's the link right there. And Smaulgld gets a small commission. So I do say that. I say if you're going to buy it, go ahead and do it. But I don't tell you. I say not investment advice, so I'm not even advising you to buy it. Okay. Tom Manley takes Bo Poloni's ice and run with it. Shemitah. Guliam Charles. I wish we had money that was a store of value. You know, Janet Yellen once said, before she left, that the dollar is not really a good store of value. That's because of her. then we wouldn't need to deal with the stock market. That's wishful thinking. That's right. You would deal with the stock market, but you would make your money, and let's say you made $35,000 and you save $2,000 every year. That $2,000 would be yours, and you wouldn't have to worry about it going down in value. And maybe you would shave off some of that to try to get a little extra, because the store value would hold its value. You might be able to put some of it into if it was a gold-backed dollar, you might get a little interest, and yeah, you wouldn't need to be speculating. That's totally true, but that doesn't exist. And in fact, the reason I believe that they manipulate the gold and the silver is so that you don't do that, because they want you. They like the circulation of the money. They like the 2 or 3% inflation. They want the money out there circulating. They don't believe that savers add to the economy. They believe that savers slow the economy down. What they don't realize is that the classical argument is, well, if you save your money, you can then invest it and then things get built. Their argument is, well, screw that. We can just borrow the money today and start building. And that's why I have the problem with the Chinese economy when people are cheering that on because they build ghost cities. Those are cities that don't have any economic demand. They just bring it forward and they say, well, we'll borrow the money, we'll lend money from the state-owned banks to the state-owned enterprise, and we'll build stuff, and we'll get economic activity now, even though we don't need that stuff. That's the total opposite of the savings and prudent economy. That's why I don't understand why people think that China is some type of sound money, prudent economy when they're the worst. It's just that they happen to have some gold. That doesn't change anything. Their economy is based on no savings. In fact, the Chinese people are no longer big savers, and they've gone on a spending binge, and they've borrowed a lot of money, and they're up to their eyes in the real estate bubble too. All right, buy your Smaulgld mugs. Yes, let's see it. Did I get any orders for Smaulgld mugs tonight? I did not. That's strange. I think today, all days, made a special pitch for them. I would have sold a few mugs. Bo Baloney. Okay. Peter Larkin here. I'm here for a reason. I appreciate all perspectives. Well, that's good, Peter. I appreciate that you appreciate perspectives. Some people just appreciate hearing the rationale why gold and silver are set to skyrocket. And if they don't hear that, then they're gone. Or they stay and they get mad at me. They tell me that this is, that I don't understand. I'm a shill. Or I'm a disinformation agent. Or, I like when they say, I must be pumping cryptos. Everyone has this binary view. You're either for or against something. And if you're not for gold, well, then you're for Bitcoin. If you're for Bitcoin, then you're against it. I don't think that way. And a lot of people don't, but it's a lot easier to draw a crowd when you're pumping. It's obvious. Look at the channels and the numbers. You go there, you know you're going to hear, oh, Hungary bought gold. Game over, game changer, gold to skyrocket. They know what's coming. Oh, look at this. Poland's buying gold. Central banks are buying gold. That is all you need to know. I am buying gold today. They know it's coming. And Russia's buying gold. End of dollar hegemony. Dollar collapse. Okay. Do you think that markets are manipulating housing, stocks, bonds, and gold? Yes. I mean, they say straight up. When the reason they did QE, Bernanke said it, and Yellen said it, was to create a housing, to increase the price of housing, because a lot of people had houses, and to boost the prices of stocks. Even if they didn't say that, the fact that they actually set interest rates is a form of manipulation. So of course they do. It's in the interest of governments to have higher home prices, higher stock prices, and probably lower gold and silver prices. So of course they manipulate them. But my problem with the pumping is, if they know, I mean, God has done some tremendous work. They've gone through and, they've got archives of stuff there. It's obvious that they manipulate gold and silver markets. Different ways, overtly, they've been caught. There's ways you can infer that they've manipulated. I've done a couple of very long blog posts on, I did two. I did one called Gold and Silver Manipulation Proven, and then Gold and Silver Manipulation Suspected. And of course they do that. But if you know that they're manipulated, and you know that, like earlier comment was, ETFs, if you know that the way the world is, why do you expect it to end? It's the same with the JP Morgan story. If JP Morgan is supposedly manipulating silver down, and that's their job, and I'm not necessarily subscribing to that theory, but that's one theory, is that they're there to short sell and to always be on the short side and to knock it down, then why are they going to at some point just let it ride? What would be the point in that? Other than you thinking, well, that's great. I'm going to be like JP Morgan. I'm going to buy silver that no one can prove they have it, and that somehow they're going to let it ride and then they're going to sell it all and make money. I don't know. No one's going to pay for it anyway. And finally, when there's nothing left, when you can't borrow another buck from the bank or buy another case of booze, you bust the joint out. You light a match. Good fellas. Very good. Guillaume Charles, how about real estate as a store of value? Yeah, well, kind of. The problem with real estate as a store of value is that you have to pay taxes all the time, whether you use the services or not, whether you have kids in the school district, and you have to update it, upgrade it. You have to fix the roof, you have to fix the leaks, you have to keep the driveway going, and if your neighbors are pains in the necks or there's a criminal crack house in the neighborhood, the value of your real estate goes down no matter how well you keep your house up. Katie Goolsby, I suppose anything that has a store value would depend on the assurance that it'll persist a market for it. That's right. That's a very good point for it. And the thing is, it's possible that people could take the view that they don't like gold anymore. They could take the view that they have no use for Bitcoin. It's very possible. I mean, we lived without Bitcoin for 7,000 years. It's only been around 10 years, so why do you need Bitcoin? Now, if somebody is for Bitcoin, they can't even think that that's possible because they've already convinced themselves that the world needs Bitcoin, they've been waiting for Bitcoin, and so on. And it's the same with gold. There are people who believe there's no way, like gold is money, period. That is all you need to know. They can't conceive of a world where people don't think of gold as being that valuable, other than maybe for jewelry. They say it's always shiny. So you're right. That is a very good point on the store of value. A good store of value is really a grain silo. I think you can always find use for that grain, but the problem with the store of value might not last more than 5 or 7 years. Yes, Mohammed bin Salman. Okay. Why are nations purchasing gold, Russia, China, if it's not a store? Well, okay. See, these are the types of cherry-picked data. And I've gone through this a lot, Michael. Why are nations purchasing gold? So what the pumpers will tell you is they are buying gold hand over fist. They know it's coming. And what I always say is, how much gold are they buying? Why are they buying it? And what impact does their purchase have? See, what people do is they assume and they assert that they're buying it because they know what's coming, or they have such a high view of gold, so therefore we should too. Central banks are buying gold. That is all I need to know. No, you need to know more. And I've gone through this. First of all, Russia is really the only central bank that's bought gold in any significant amounts. We did a show the other night. We showed they bought 70% of the central bank gold. They have the third largest gold mining production in the world. And they basically have one of the worst currencies in the world. So it makes total sense for them to convert their rubles into gold. Also, they have no trade with the United States. The United States has them under massive sanctions. So they have no real use to have dollars other than as a store of value. But if gold is a good store of value, they might as well convert their rubles into gold. Okay, so now other countries. Hungary. Hungary put out a press release and explained why. Oh, by the way, Russia's massive 2,000-ton gold hoard is only worth $71 billion. So again, it's not that big of a deal. Hungary just hardly spent anything. They bought some gold too. 1,000% up. Yeah, they went from 3 tons to they added 28 tons. So now their gold reserves have gone up 1,000%. No one's saying it's not a store of value, but Beyond that, so what? It's a store of value. So are mugs. Seriously. If you buy a Smaulgld mug, it's going to last you 10, 15, 20 years. You can use it. It's a store of value. Does that mean that the mug should be worth $300, $500, that they should go higher? They're indispensable. Look, copper's a store of value. If you had pennies, copper pennies, pre-1982 pennies, put them in a jar, they're store of value. So what? Store of value is actually a limitation on upside. It's not going to get any better. Gold doesn't get any better. Gold is gold. That's the best thing about it. It's not going to default either. It's not going to grow, though. As Warren Buffett says, it's not going to pay dividends. It's not supposed to. But it also doesn't mean it's going to skyrocket. Why would it skyrocket? It doesn't do anything. He makes the point, you take an ounce of gold, you bury it, 20 years later you come back, it's an ounce of gold. That's good in my mind. That hasn't gone away, and it's still an ounce of gold. To his mind, it hasn't grown into anything. But to my mind, it also hasn't depreciated. So, you know, you buy a company, shares, the price goes up, you get dividends, that's wonderful. But what if the company's run by morons, or they get thrown out of business, or they go bankrupt, or they get whatever it is, then you've lost money. Gold is a store of value. No one's denying it's not a store of value. But what does that mean? Because it's a store of value that it's somehow it should be worth a lot more than it is? That's the pumper mentality. They give you these information and are like, central banks are buying gold. That is all I need to know. They know what is coming, and that is why they are buying gold hand over fist. No, first of all, they're not. And second of all, how much are they buying? And the amounts that they buy have no impact on the gold price or even the supply of gold, because they buy a very small percentage of the overall gold that's mined every year. Hope that answers your question, Michael. Emily York is here. Haven't seen you in a while. Do you think government suppressed the price of silver? Yep, I think I covered that 10, 15 minutes ago. Let me go back, and I did explain that. Pablo Pina is laughing at something. I don't know what it was. Walden Tree, store books and tools. Yep. Dr. Medesco is answering that. All right. Michael says, I do like to hear your side of things. You mostly put up a decent argument, though you understandably tap dance around certain topics. Example 9/11. No, I don't. Actually, I don't tap dance around 9/11. I'm not a 9/11 guy. I don't talk about Zionism or Rothschilds. And I don't even talk that much about politics. What I try to do is talk about what I know. And so what I spend most of my time on, it was another guy who was complaining I wasn't talking about the Rothschilds. Like, okay, I'm not talking about them, or Zionism, whatever it was. I try to stick to the economy and gold and silver. The reason I talk about politics is you can't discuss gold, silver, and economics in a vacuum. So I do mention those things. But I'm not going to go off onto tribalism and discussing sides to the extent where, you know, it becomes a rant festival for one side or the other, or I get into 9/11 conspiracies. That I have thoughts on that stuff, but you know, there's other channels that do that, and I just don't do that. It doesn't mean I'm not tap dancing around it. It's like that's not the focus of the channel. I only do an hour a night, so I'm not going to do 9/11 and Soros and all that stuff. Old-fashioned tools are good. So basically, Michael, my analysis is around gold, silver, and the economy. And that will veer off into the Federal Reserve. And then, of course, when you talk about the Federal Reserve, you're going to talk about Trump. Then you're going to talk about the midterm election, because it's very important to the markets who's in charge of the head of the Financial Services Committee. We talked about this. If the Democrats win, then you got Maxine Waters. That's going to change the tenor of what's going on in Washington, which will have an impact on the economy and gold and silver. All right, let's see. Gold is treasury. All right, you guys are having private conversations here. There we go. Rex Totten. For some of us, silver and gold is money, period. That's my favorite. Gold is money, period. But maybe not for you. Well, you can period all you want, but one of the problems I have with that mentality is the definition of money that most people subscribe to is that it's a store of value, that it has to be divisible, fungible, has to have, well, Bitcoin doesn't have this, but it has to have some desirability outside of its use as money. So some would say Bitcoin can't be money because it has no store of value, though Bitcoin people tell you it has store of value. But forget Bitcoin. You just go back to gold and silver. Gold and silver have all the qualities of classical money. But the one thing that they don't have, or they're very deficient in currently, is that no one uses them as a means of exchange. They are not currency. People do not spend gold and silver. There's no place you can go where you can use gold and silver. Forget gold money. I'm talking about you got a stack of silver coins, you got a stack of gold coins, go try to spend them. They're not money. They're not currency, and therefore if they don't have the medium of exchange option today, then they don't meet all the definitions of money. Again, I like to use the horse definition. Horses are transportation, period. Horses have been transportation for 5,000 years, period. Horses will therefore always be transportation. Now, if you said that in 1850, no one was going to argue with you. But by 1910, people would argue with you. Horses today could be transportation. But most use of horses today is to ride around in circles for people to bet on them. You could go, it would be kind of hard, you'd have to plan it out. You could go from Boston to New York on a horse, period. The old days, that's how you got from Boston to New York. You had to have a horse. If you wanted to buy something in 1850, you had to use gold or you had to use silver. There was no wire transfer. There was no Bitcoin. There was no dollar transfers. There wasn't any of that. But today, gold and silver are not used as a medium of exchange, period. All right, that doesn't mean that gold and silver are not valuable, and it doesn't mean that horses aren't valuable. It just means one of their uses is a historical throwback. People don't get on a horse and go visit their neighbors 30 miles away, or they don't go anywhere on horses. They're not transportation, period. And people don't go to the store and use gold and silver. So therefore, that's why I say, and it doesn't mean I'm against gold and silver, and it doesn't mean I'm against horses. It just means I don't think that horses are transportation, period, or that gold and silver are money, period. All right. Let's see. So for some of you, you may like to think silver and gold are money. Well, then go use them. Go use them as currency. Try to live your life. I mean, there are people who manage to do it with Bitcoin, but try to live your life and spend your silver. Not convert it to fiat, but pay your rent in silver, buy your groceries in silver, conduct all of your needs and transactions in gold or silver. You can't do it. Similarly, try to go to work on a horse. Someone might be able to figure that out. Try to go to the grocery store on a horse. Try to do everything you do. Try to use your transportation and your money transactions using gold, silver, and horses. You can't do it. Therefore, horses are not transportation, period, and gold and silver are not money, period. Do I like horses? Yes. Do I like gold and silver? Yes. All right. Yet gold and silver is recognized worldwide and is accepted as money for goods. Where worldwide? I don't understand what you mean it's accepted worldwide. Yes, gold is accepted as a store of value. So are paintings. People will buy. If you had a Picasso painting, you can get value for it. You get fiat value for it. They're not recognized worldwide. That's like saying a mug is recognized worldwide. Someone will pay you anywhere in the world for a mug. Does that mean mugs are money? Period. I could take a mug and people want a mug and it has value. That doesn't make that mug money. I can exchange it for stuff. I can put gold and silver in a mug. People are too closed-minded about money because they've heard gold is money, period. Silver is money, period. You're not thinking it through. The same with silver is so useful. So is copper. So is aluminum. So is tin. So is lead. That doesn't make them worth exponential amounts more than they already are worth. Because someone on YouTube says they're so useful. Period. All right. A home I live in for the past 25 years has tripled in value. The property tax has also tripled. Yep. Try not paying it and you won't have your house. Yeah, well, absolutely. What every man has said, 10 years straight up, no way is that right. Absolutely. The stock market has been rigged since 1987. When the stock market collapsed, the then youngish, newly appointed Alan Greenspan, as the new federal chairman, was asked by Ronald Reagan, what can we do about this? And he said, okay, I know what to do. And ever since then, we've had the Greenspan put, the Bernanke put, the Yellen put. They're always there, ready, willing, and able to inject liquidity into the markets, whether it's QE or just putting money in, open market operations, exchange stabilization fund. They've realized that the second most important asset that they have beyond the dollar is the stock market. Yes, of course it's right. Carl Joseph DeMarco is here. Ciao. I bet any supermarket in America would accept a Silver Eagle or Gold Eagle for face value. In fact, they have to. That Silver Eagle is worth $1. And it says $1 on it, and that's what you can get for it. A Gold Eagle, I believe, an ounce is worth $50. Or stamped 50. Legal tender for sure. Yes, and then the cashier, if he's smart, I mean, if I was working there, I would take it and I would just swap it out. And then, but I think actually it's a bit of a legal fiction, because if there was somebody, actually if I did that, I would get arrested. Here's why. Someone tried to pay their employees in gold coins, and for tax purposes. So if his employees were making $20,000, he'd give them like 20 gold coins over the course of the year. No. Yes, he would give them 20 gold coins over the course of a year, and they would make their $20,000 in their minds because that's what they were getting paid. However, what they would put down on their tax return is that they made $1,000 that year, because 20 $50 gold coins, 1 ounce coins at $50 on them, means they only made $1,000. So they would be able to say, well, I only made $1,000 this year. I didn't make $20,000. Whatever the exchange was, and they got in trouble for that. They said, no, that's nonsense. So actually, if you did that at the grocery store and you took the $50 for a $49 bill, you gave them $1 back, you took the $50 gold coin, and then you took $50 out of your wallet and pocketed the gold coin, you would have made a theft of over $1,000. The home one lives in should never reviews an investment for just that reason. Yes, and I've done a YouTube on that as well. House that you live in is not an investment. Gold is not an investment. Gold mining stocks are an investment. Nothing happens. Gold is an asset or insurance. It doesn't go up or down because it doesn't do anything. An investment is defined as something where it produces income or it does something. You hold an asset. An investment you expect to grow. Gold's not going to grow. It's only going to go up or down relative to something. You can't improve on gold. That's why it's gold. It's an inert element. Now, rental properties are investment, but a home that you live in is not. Here we go. You're clearly on the Bitcoin train. See, if you don't say things nice about gold, then therefore you must be a Bitcoin person. And all cryptocurrencies are going to zero because they are the mark of the beast. See, it's the same nonsense. I got plenty of bad stuff to say about Bitcoin too. I look at things objectively. I don't fall into a camp and just worship gold or worship Bitcoin. I don't like pumping. I don't spend much time going after the Bitcoin pumpers lately just because most of the audience is not interested in Bitcoin or Litecoin, so I don't trash them as much. But I do on the week in review. I have a section called Bitcoin Pumper and Litecoin Pumper, and I go after them as well. So I'm not clear. See, when you hear arguments, instead of listening to what I said about gold and silver not being used as currency, instead of trying to think of a rejoinder to that, you say, oh, then you must like cryptocurrencies. Yeah, that's what it is. All right, let's see. When you see a Silver Eagle at the supermarket, they say silver only take cash or card. All right. Tom Manley. We're on a long time here. Okay. If paintings rise in value, why not gold? If it's being held back for future inflation. Well, paintings are rarer and more unique than gold, and they're not money because they're not fungible. That's why they have more value. Well, some of them do. I mean, mine doesn't, but Picasso's does. Picasso's rise in value, but actually the intrinsic value of a painting is next to nothing. It's actually is negative. And what are you going to do with used canvas? I mean, once canvas isn't worth much to begin with, and it's already splattered with paint on it. So paintings and gold are not even close to the same thing. And yet, rich people buy paintings because they're unique and maybe they like what they look like. And that's part of the allure of gold. People like what it looks like. And it's relatively rare. There's no official market for art. Maybe that's why the inflation shows. That's a very good question. That's a very good point. The art market is manipulated, but there's no official price. It's manipulated, and it's generally manipulated higher. There's no set price. The most disturbing thing about gold and silver markets is it's like a global price. I mean, you pay a different price for eggs everywhere in the world. But supposedly an ounce of gold right now, whatever it is, 1,220, what is it today? That's the price of gold. Now there's little premiums here and there in India or China, but basically that's the global price. But there is no global price for eggs. So, all right. Well, thank you very much for listening, and we'll be back again tomorrow night. Period.